Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another server banner tutorial. Now I want to start off by apologizing for the 2-week delay in videos. I was on vacation, I pre-recorded some videos so I'd have some to post, and then the vacation got extended a week, and naturally I can't record during that time, so I ended up not being able to post. But I'm back again and I'll make it up with an extra video either this week or next week, though likely it will be next week. Now today's tutorial is going to be focused around featuring multiple different characters. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the one in the center. Now this can be swapped out with a bunch of different character styles, for example from a TV show, a movie, and naturally anime. So without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. We're going to start off by going to File, New, and we're going to do 960 by 540. Then click Create. Now we're going to want to delete this base layer. So first create a new layer by clicking this button in the corner. Go to this layer, click Delete on your keyboard, or right click and do Remove. And for this layer, we're going to want to make it the following color: F2, F0, F0. Hit OK. Go to your paint bucket tool, drop down that color, and we'll call this our base layer. Control G, and we'll call this the background. And let's go ahead and make this orange. Now we're going to create a new layer within this folder. We're going to do Control G, and we'll call this the stroke circles. Then we're going to go over to our colors, and we're going to use the following color for the first circle: 4FE0CB. Hit OK. Go over to your shapes, go to the ellipse tool, go to the stroke, make it that color by clicking on the little thumbnail right here. Make the fill transparent, and make the size of the stroke 58 pixels. I can go ahead and just drop this down and make this 700 by 700. Hit OK. And then you're going to want to center it, just like so. You see the guiding lines pop up, and that will let you know that your shape is now in the center of the frame. So we'll call this the first stroke, and then we'll create another one. This one is going to have a darker color: 458 A68. Hit OK. Click once again, and this one is going to be at 940 by 940. Hit OK. And actually the color didn't change, but that's easy enough to fix. So let's go ahead and center it first. Gonna go over to our color, and we can either do it up in this left corner, or we can do it on the right over here. So I'm going to do it here for the moment, and I can just click just like so, and the color is going to swap itself. And now we have one more circle to make, and that one we'll make outside of that second folder. So go inside that first folder, create a new layer, click, and put from center. We'll make this one 446 by 446, and click OK. Make sure the fill is going to be the new color, and the stroke is non-existent. Actually, I forgot to swap the color, so make sure you go to fill. You can click right there, and the new color is going to be the following: 80AF9B. Getting a little rusty after not recording for a few weeks, but I'll be back into it soon enough. So we're going to make sure that we center this one as well. So I'm holding shift as I move it, so it moves straight across the X and Y axis. Either way that I drag it. See, if I drag it any way that's up or down, it's not going to go that way. It stays on this axis. And I will center that as well. And I'll call this the center stroke. Now, I'll ask that you please hit the like button and subscribe to appease the YouTube algorithm, as it is a very finicky overlord. Now with that step out the way, we can continue. So from here, we're going to be grabbing a few different images of our character in scenes from their show, and we're just going to drop those in here. So for the first one, I'm going to copy the image. I'm going to come over to the center, do Control V, Control T. I'm going to do a slight modification, and I'll return to this again in just a moment. So right about there, we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and all of our images, except for the one we're going to have directly in the center, are going to be black and white. Black and white, hit OK. Now you can either do right click and create a clipping mask from here, or you can hold Alt and click in the little area right in between these two layers, and you see this little icon pop up, and if you click, it will clip that right onto there. Now we're going to switch this to a soft light, and we're going to bring the opacity down to around 60%. Great. Now while this might look a little overbearing, keep in mind that as a server banner, it's going to be at about that size, if not smaller. So you want this image right here to be fairly visible, because any lower and it's not going to show up well at all. So we're going to do a Control T once again. We're going to move him a bit like that. It doesn't matter if the top is a little cut off, because the center character model is going to be taking up that space. And we can adjust him like so. And you can always come back to it once we get our center character in the frame, just so we can see what needs to be edited. Let's go ahead and name these layers center Midoriya, and let's go back to our circles. For this one, we're going to swap them to multiply. Let's see. And we're going to put it at 86% opacity. And you'll see why in just a moment. You just copy layer style and paste the same thing right up top. Paste. Now we return to our base layer. We can paste our second character image. Control T. Make sure we align it in the way that we want it to look. So I want it at about here, maybe a tad to the right. That should be good. We'll see in a moment. Go to Image, Adjustments, Black and White once again. And we're going to swap him to Overlay. Actually, he is a tad small now. Let's increase that size to about here, because I want him to hit that center right there, and also to fill this entire left section. So increase the size a tad. His eyes to kind of overlap with these two, and that is perfect. We can go ahead and clip him, not that it matters, but for the sake of organization, and we'll call it left Midoriya. Now before we move on to the other characters and the various rays and shapes that are involved with it, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this center section with that character. Let's go ahead and drag our character in. Control T to resize him. I'm holding Alt and scrolling with my mouse to zoom out. And let's drag this down till about, let's say, here. Perfect. And we can make some adjustments if we want. If he's a bit too dark, a bit too light, we can go on brightness contrast, make adjustments like so, or image adjustments, all kinds of different things that you can mess around with if you so wish. but I'm going to leave my character standard, but the scenario for you might be a tad different. So I'm going to do Control G. I'll name this the character model. I'll name this the character's name, and I will make this green just to match the character itself. I'm going to do a Control J. I'm going to move this above just so I don't have to bother renaming stuff. Going into blending options, color overlay, and the color we want to use is that same color from this first little circle that we did. That color being 4FE0CB. I'll click OK, OK, rasterize layer style, and then we're going to be using our arrow keys while on the move tool to actually move this around. So left up, left up, left up, and so on and so forth until we have a suitable distance from our character. That was a bit too far, so I'm going to be doing the reverse to go back down, down, right, until I am happy with how far it is from my character. So I am pretty content with that. We can call this the blue outline. Do another Control J. Move that up just so I don't have to bother deleting the copy. And we'll call this white. Go into blending options, color overlay, and this one will be white. Rasterize layer style, and this one we can simply move to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Nope, 4 is adequate. Now we can close out of this because we no longer need it, and we can grab these little star shapes. Move that over, put it underneath everything else, and let's call this the stars. These will be white as well, so color overlay, make sure it's white, hit OK, and rasterize the layer style. Control T, scale them down a tad, make them diagonal like so, and let's put it behind our character. Actually, this still feels a little far out, so I move it down and right one more time, and the white will get moved down and right as well, just to mimic it better. Now for these stars, we want them to pop out the left and the right side just a bit, not an overly large amount. And we're going to grab our lasso tool, and we're going to clean up any ones that are broken or odd ones out, just like that. Delete, I missed one. Delete, and then let's see. Delete and delete. That will take care of most of it, and actually let's get rid of that as well. Great. So we can close this up, and this layer group right here is going to stay at the top of our workspace for the rest of the project. Now with this layer right here, we're going to do Control G. We'll name this dots. We can make it yellow, and we'll go ahead and drag in our dots. So do Control T, and let's scale it down to about 21%, hit OK, and drag it into our corner. I can go ahead and close that, and close the dots. Now I'll go ahead and delete that extra layer. I'm going to do Control J. I'm going to move it while holding Shift. I see that line up here. I know it's fairly lined up. At least it should be. That's fine. Control J once again, and move it till you see the line. Control J. And then Control J. Then we'll take all of these. We'll do a Control J again. Move it down. Control J. And we can go ahead and merge group. Now we're going to create a group once again. We'll make sure it's yellow. We'll call this the dots. We'll call this, well, we'll rename it in a second. We're going to hold Control while we click this center stroke circle, just like that. And then we're going to do a Control J for that layer. We're going to come back to this other dots layer. We're going to do the same thing, Control click. And this time we're going to hit delete. Now, the reason being is we want a different visibility for the outside circles and these inside circles. And because the colors are slightly different, they're going to appear differently and not even throughout the image like we want. So for these outside dots, and we'll name these as such, we want them being at soft lights at about 45% opacity. Now for these inner dots, we want them to be soft light at about 25% opacity. As you can see, that's fairly even. If we'd done them all at 40%, that would have been a bit too visible and would not have turned out as well. Now you can leave it at 40% if you want, or you can do it this way. Up to you how you want them to look. Alright, there's only a few steps left. We can go ahead and hide the backgrounds, hide the dots, create a new layer, and do a Control G. Let's make this say purple, and we'll call this the rays. We'll do a Control J 4 times, Control G, Control G, Control G, Control G. And we'll come back to those in just a moment. So this would be the left ray. We're going to go over to this layer right here. We're going to go to our pen tool, and we're going to swap the color to the following 21D292. Hit OK. And here it might take a little bit of tinkering to get it right or about the right size for yourself. But I'm going to click at about this location. I'm going to go up until about here. So there's a bit of an angle. I'm going to go down to about here. And I'll go over to about there. I'm going to go all the way around while staying within the character so it doesn't spill outside of this area that this character occupies. Hit OK, or sorry, click there. Make selection, hit OK, Shift F5, and the color we're going to be using is that green one. Hit OK, go to the rectangular marquee tool, right click, and deselect. Now this is our first little ray that we have. Now as I mentioned, you can tinker around with it. You can make it a bit steeper at the bottom, a bit steeper at the top, but it's up to you how you want to approach this. I'm going to go ahead and drop my character down, go into adjustments, make my character black and white, go to multiply at about 75% opacity. I'm going to clip the character, we're going to do a Control T, and we're going to adjust the character until we can see about both of their eyes. Just like that. Let's move them up a little bit, and that's great. We'll call this the left Midoriya. I think I already used that name once. Did I? It's alright. And we'll call this the ray base. Good. I'm going to go to our next one. We'll call this the top ray. I'm going to go into our layer. I'm going to go back to our pen tool. And for this one, we're going to want to click at about here. Go about like that. Go over to about here. And down like so. Complete the little shape that you made. Right click, make selection, hit OK, Shift F5 and then click OK once again. The color, it's going to remember from the past color you did, so no need to switch that around. Right click, deselect with the rectangular marquee tool. Now we're going to grab another character. We're going to do Control V. We're going to make the character black and white. And actually, just to keep it easy, we can right click, copy layer style, and paste it, just so we need to be clicking around for stuff. Now we can clip that on the bottom layer. Go ahead and name it, and we'll call this the top. Control T and adjust the character until you're happy with how they fit. I'm going to go about there. Not quite though, I'm going to adjust it a bit to the left using the arrow keys while on the move tool, and I am happy with that. We're going to go over here, we'll call this the, actually let's move this down here. We'll call this the bottom ray. Come back over there, go to our pen tool, and for here we're going to click at about, say, there. We can go to about here and go all the way around till, say, there. Make selection, hit OK, Shift F5, same color, deselect, and we're going to grab another character model. Go ahead and paste it as well. Image, adjustments, black and white, hit OK. We can paste the layer style, create a clipping mask. Let's go ahead and copy the name over. Let's call this the bottom. Control T, and again, adjust our character into a spot that you are happy with. And I am pretty content with, make sure the corner is filled. Let's see. Yep, that's great. And now we're on to our final step. And you'll see why I move this down here in just a second. So we call this the center ray. Let's actually add a white after it so we know exactly what it is. White. We're going to go back to our pen tool. Now the color we're going to be using is, of course, just plain white. Hit OK. And now we're going to try to follow these shapes around to get our center ray outline. So we can click at about here. We can click about there. It doesn't matter if we're a little off, and you'll see why in just a moment. We can click here, and then click up there, and then go all the way around to complete it. Make selection, OK, Shift F5, and now because the color is now white instead of green, we need to swap the color because it's still going to be sampling that green that we've been using for the other fills. So just make that white, hit OK, and then deselect. Now for this one, we're going to keep it at normal, and the opacity is going to go down to about 30%. We're going to grab our last character model, do a Control V, image, adjustments, black and white, hit OK, and we're going to swap it to multiply at about 45% opacity. We're going to do a Control T and adjust the character until about that. And then just clip the character on. We'll call this the white ray. And we'll call this center character name. Great. And that's really all there is to this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I probably won't include the actual characters themselves. Those are pretty easy to find. If you just Google the character's name, you'll find plenty of different images along that routes. I'll include the center one, I'll include the dots, and I'll include the sparkles in the download link. Thank you so much for watching, and I have another video popping up on screen to another great tutorial that's along similar lines to what this one was.